series is all about building resilience, which is something that we are always discussing at Phase. Resilience may be a word that you hear talked about a lot, but maybe you're not sure exactly what it is or what it looks like. So join us in this series as we discuss why resilience is so important, how we can build it, reflect on our own resilience, and have an honest conversation about the reality of being resilient in the challenges of life. In this episode, we are thinking about what we really mean by resilience, different ways of being resilient, and why we think it is so important. Hello everyone, thank you so much for being here. What I'd love to do is just go around so you can introduce yourselves and maybe share with us as well your connection to Phase.
Hello, I'm Erica. I'm a coach and I've been working or volunteering with Phase for about 6 months. I've absolutely loved it. I've loved going into all the different schools, meeting young people. And I'm a parent as well. I've got 2 young kids, one who's 6, one who's 9.
Fabulous.
I'm Kieran, I'm Director of Phase, and I get the pleasure of leading the organisation and the team, and just like Eric said, going into schools, working every day with children, young people, and then getting to do things like this. Very exciting.
Hi, I'm Hannah and I am the Wellbeing Lead at Phase. So again, have the privilege and joy to go into primary schools and secondary schools and help children and young people think about their wellbeing and building their resilience.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all for joining us. These episodes, we are going to be talking a lot about resilience. And we're going to talk a lot more about what resilience is and unpack that. But just to start, I wondered if you could each give a definition in just a sentence quickly of what we are talking about when we say the word resilience.
So for me, I think resilience is that idea of kind of bouncing back. But I think sometimes bouncing back can make it seem like it's quick and it's easy. And I think actually resilience sometimes those situations you find yourself in, it isn't quick and it isn't easy, and so it's the process as well and what you learn and what you grow through that time.
Lovely.
I think, resilience is again about bounce back ability, which is a great word. It is about sort of what you learn from whatever adversity you might face or whatever challenges, and how you deal with them and how you learn from them and grow and move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like we've all said, it's that bounce back, but I think it's almost like that grit and that determination. Like, I often think resilience is something you don't realise you have until you're beyond something. You are resilient through things, but it's almost those cognitive skills, sometimes that physical ability, and almost that emotional, robust nature. That I think all of that, is part of what resilience is.
Lovely. Yeah, okay. So resilience is about bouncing back, it's about adapting, it's about that grit, that determination. And obviously at Phase, resilience is something that we do talk about a lot. We're really passionate about it. And it is a word that gets used a lot in society. So does anyone want to share why we think it's important? Why are we here and why are we talking about resilience today?
Well, because we've just come off the back of the hottest couple of days that any Brit, other than who's gone to the south coast of Spain, maybe in the height of summer, has ever faced. And even in that, it really reminded me that, life will throw challenges at us. It will throw things that are out of our control. I think that's a really big thing is, often, especially in our Western world, we want to control everything. And being resilient is about adapting, changing to those circumstances that we're in. But also, how do we do that? I know talking about it is one thing, but it's, we've been wrestling with thinking about what does that actually look like? Like, how do you help people think about that? And again, because I often think resilience is something that it's almost, as you look back in your rearview mirror, you realise, I was resilient there. And so it's that idea of how do we actively grow and not just have the theory, but the outworking.
Yeah.
I think resilience is a life skill. It's something that I've learned that everyone needs throughout their whole lives, because as Kieran said, things come at you all the time, from small challenges like taking the wrong turn and getting slightly lost, to really big things that we all need to overcome together, like the pandemic, for example. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just one of those things, and I think some people naturally are slightly more resilient, but it's also a skill that we can learn and build. It's like physical fitness. You know, you can keep going to the gym, you keep working on it, and you will get fitter. The same with resilience. You keep working on it, and you will get more and more resilient and able to have that capacity to take those sort of life challenges and make the best out of them and grow and go forward.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like that muscle, isn't it? Kind of stretching it and building it. And I think that's very much part of resilience, and say it's something that you're not born, but you kind of learn and you develop and you grow, and the more you kind of step out of your comfort zone, then the more you kind of realise that you can and kind of surprise yourself, and is looking for those, you know, solutions to when you face a problem, thinking, okay, right, what are some of the different things I could do? And I think also a big thing around resilience is actually it's okay to make mistakes and to learn from that, and not being afraid to make those mistakes and thinking, okay, well, what can I do differently next time? And just because it didn't work out the first time, not giving up, but keeping going.
Sometimes it feels like resilience is like a daily choice or mindset. Something that I don't want to be resilient, but I can choose to be resilient. Something that just we're talking came into my mind.
Yeah, I was thinking that as well, about it is a perspective, isn't it? Two people can be facing a similar thing, but having a different perspective on it.
Yeah.
It's like the old adage, you know, I often think about it as two stonemasons, and somebody goes up to him and says, you know, what are you doing? He said, I'm making bricks. And that's it, that's his focus. He goes up to the next person and says, what are you doing? He said, I'm building a cathedral. And it's that perspective, you know, the first one's just like, just doing this job. The other one's got the vision of what he's trying to achieve, or he or she is trying to achieve and do.
Yeah, I like that. All right, well, I'd love you to be thinking about, or maybe you already know, how resilient you would say you are. And I thought we'd start with a game of Would You Rather as a little test. So I've got a couple. If you guys want to throw some out there as well, please feel free to. So my first one is, would you rather go to space or go underwater?
Oh, wow. I mean, two very good options, but I think I'd rather go to space. I think seeing the big blue pearl would be pretty epic.
Okay.
I'd go underwater.
Yeah.
Obviously in a big submersible, because, otherwise I'm not great at swimming underwater. But yeah, no, I'd love it. See all of these things that no one's ever seen before, and see all of these animals, you know, all the fish that glow up, and wow.
Yeah, I'm with you, Erica. I'd go down, deep down, and see everything. Yeah, I think it's amazing.
Would you rather be chased by a horse-sized duck or 20 duck-sized horses? It's a classic, but it's a good one. Emily.
20 duck-sized horses.
20 duck-sized. So they're like ducks, but they're horses.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I think I'm more scared of a duck than a horse. So a mini horse is way less scary.
But there's 20 of them.
No, yeah. But what are they going to do? Right.
Yeah, but you could outrun the horse-sized duck,
Yeah,
because
they're
they've
smaller.
got really sort of silly feet.
Yeah,
They fall over.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
well.
fall over themselves.
What would you do?
Oh, the horse-sized duck you said you could outrun.
I think I could outrun a horse-sized duck.
Well, that's episode 2.
Maybe.
No, I'd still go for the duck-sized horses.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd go for the duck-sized horses as well. But something that's big just feels a bit more daunting, whereas if they're little, I feel like you can outrun them.
Yeah, and it'd be kind of cute, duck-sized horses. All right, I've got one. Would you rather have fingers for toes or toes for fingers?
Toes for fingers. You could be like a monkey. How cool would that be?
You wouldn't be able to do anything.
Yeah, they'd be...
Oh, so that means if I've got fingers on my toes, I have to have toes on my hands?
No, you either have 20 toes or 20 fingers.
Oh, 20 fingers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's an
20
obvious
fingers.
one. Have any of you seen Freaky Friday?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't.
You haven't. Freaky Friday, essentially it's a film, but the idea is you wake up in the morning and two people have swapped bodies.
Okay.
But you've got to try and blag your way through as being that person. So if you were to wake up in the morning Freaky Friday, you're waking up as somebody else. Would you rather be Boris Johnson, have to run the country for a day, or be a surgeon, have to do their job for the day? And make it convincing.
Well, I think being a surgeon would be a little bit terrifying for the day. I'd be too scared that I would do something wrong and kill someone, and that would not be a good thing. But imagine with the power that the Prime Minister has, how much good you could do in a day. I think I'd like that challenge. It'd be terrifying, but I think you could do something really positive for everyone.
Yeah.
So I think that's how I'd choose that, not him, but choose that.
Yeah, now you've got to do your Boris Johnson impression.
Hasta la vista, baby. Yeah, no, I think that would... the thought of being Boris Johnson for a day does not appeal. I like your thinking there, Erica, but I'm not sure I could do that. But I reckon I could... I wouldn't do surgery on people, but I think I suppose, although if you're suddenly called into an emergency, you can't really get out of that, can you? So maybe that sadly does mean I'd have to be Boris. Oh, that is such a difficult one. But I think, okay. No, I'm going to go for a surgeon. Hey.
Delegate.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's going to be outside. I think I'd use the powers of delegation and get through the day by kind of delegating to others.
Yeah, fair enough. So, I mean, that was just some silly questions, but I wonder if you were asked, how resilient are you? I don't know how easy or difficult that question is to answer, because it's kind of a bit more complex than that, but what would you say if you were asked, how resilient would you say you are?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a question, like I say, something we talk about a lot, so it's actually something I think about quite a bit. I would like to think I'm quite resilient, but I also like to have an idea of I often like to think of how can I become more resilient. I don't think you get to the end of resilience, like level 10, congratulations. But I would like to think I'm quite resilient. I like solving problems. I like to be proactive in doing stuff. But also, I like it, when I'm faced with a challenge, I'm always keen to try and find out, okay, well, what can I do and what can others around me do? So, I'd like to think I'm quite a resilient person in general. If I had to put a number in it, maybe I'd put an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
But also situations do change. It does depend what situation.
Yeah, interesting.
You're facing. But if that's maybe an average, I would like to say my resilience game is strong.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
I think I am a lot more resilient than I used to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think back and I think, I'd never heard of a lot of these skills. I don't think I'd even heard or thought much about resilience for most of my life. So I think it is something that you do build on, you get better, and I think it's only by reflecting back do you realise how resilient you are. Because it is a natural skill that I think every human has, because you do. If you look at a toddler learning to walk, they get up, they fall down, they get up again, they fall down, they get up, and eventually they manage to do it. That is that natural inbuilt resilience that they have, and every human has that. And I think it's not really until something's happened where you really have to call on a lot of those resilience skills that you realise, okay, I can do that. And some people will just go forward with that and go, okay, how much more can I learn so I never need to be back there?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's sort of been very much my own experience with it.
Yeah, I think kind of similar, actually kind of I can look back and I can see at those times where I have been resilient and kind of learned from that. And I think that then kind of, if you face a similar situation or something different, actually gives you the confidence to then be able to kind of look back on that, okay, I did it last time, so I can kind of draw on some of those skills, or I know those people who I can go to and reach out to. What did I do last time? What helped? I think one of the things for me is that kind of quite aware of emotions, and so I think that's partly a way in which I kind of process and kind of do journaling. I think that helps me to recognise kind of, okay, what emotions am I feeling, and thinking, okay, right, how can I kind of manage a situation based on that. So that's kind of, I guess, a strategy that I use to kind of help, especially when I'm feeling maybe anxious or overwhelmed. Okay, right, let me process that, let me work that through to help me kind of manage the situation that I'm facing.
Yeah. It's funny, I would say in some ways I feel like I do have a lot of resilience, and at the same time I think I definitely can get overwhelmed easily, and I'm quite sensitive, and so things might affect me, and I worry about things a lot. But then again, I would say I like problem solving, and I like having, I think if it's if there's a situation to overcome and it's practical, I like that, and I like pushing myself, and I really, really want to do those things, and so I'll make myself do it, but I'll make a heck of a fuss about it at the time. So like, you know, I might be quite upset, and it might take me a while, but I have this like determination in me that's like, I'm not going to leave and not have done that thing or whatever. But yeah, at the same time, I do find myself overwhelmed. I am sensitive. I think maybe in kind of bigger situations where there isn't a quote unquote solution or a quick kind of resolution to it, I feel overwhelmed, and I beat myself up a bit afterwards. If I make a mistake, I find it quite hard to just pick myself up and get back on with it. I'm quite sensitive in my reaction to that, but yeah, I do want to push myself, and I do want to overcome, and I do like problem solving, those kind of things. So yeah, it can be, it's weird, you can almost like be really resilient but also not be very resilient at the same time.
But this is what we talked about with the situation. It totally depends on what the situation is. Have you had any experience in that situation? You know, a lot of what we talk about in coaching is okay, this is the challenge that you're facing. Look back into your past. Is there another time where you've had a similar challenge? What did you learn?
Yeah.
And that's the key. Like, I try and teach my kids, there's no such thing as failure, it's first attempt in learning. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything is what we learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bit like, you know, say there's only sort of 9 storylines. You know, any film you watch, there's sort of one of 9 storylines being played out differently. But it's that sort of thing, isn't it, with resilience. I may have not faced this exact situation before, but I will have faced a challenge where I feel like I failed, or I haven't done right, or this, that, or the other, loss. Anything that you will have faced it in some way, shape or form. And so how can I use that to sort of take this next step forward?
Yeah.
Do you think, though, that resilience is in itself quite an optimistic thing? Because I feel like I am a really optimistic person. And so I think that's really helped, because you're always looking for a way ahead. You know, I've found it really useful to reframe things in my mind. Things are no longer problems, they are challenges.
Yeah, looking for those solutions.
And it's always sort of solution focused, it's always forward looking. And I think that if you are a naturally optimistic person, I think that sometimes that does make you a little bit more resilient in the way you look at, how do I get through this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a great quote from Al, but I can't remember it word for word, but he does talk about that. Actually, you know, having that optimism, you know, you're more likely to turn bad luck to good luck, or, you know, see opportunity over challenge. So, you know, again, just listening to you there, Erica, it's definitely something I reflect on, being a, you know, majorly optimistic person. It's that's, you know, even when I, you know, been through really difficult stuff. I remember losing my mum a few years ago. Terribly sad, but it was also, how do I, you know, it's like, right, I can't change that, but how do I grieve well? And how do I, you know, make sure I don't sort of try and push those feelings down, but journey through, because I know optimistically, long term, that's going to help me come to terms with it all. But that's not everybody's story, and so, and that's really hard to put yourself into a position where, you know, I don't, my brain struggles to see a pessimistic side. So I don't quite know how to orientate myself to that point.
Yeah.
So
It's interesting, because I think sometimes when we think about resilience, or some people think of resilience is that like everything's fine, I'm fine, nothing's going to affect me, I'm tough, and that's actually in some ways quite a negative mindset, almost like I'm expecting the worst from the world, so I'm not going to let anything affect me. Whereas actually that isn't resilience, because resilience is about being able to understand those emotions and manage those emotions, and like what is going on deep down in that person. I don't know.
I agree. It's like the eggshells, isn't it? You know, your hard, tough exterior, it's going to crack at some point. If you keep doing it. Whereas if you're more like a boiled egg, got a bit more give to you.
Interesting.
I think also like kind of with resilience sometimes comes like vulnerability as well. Actually, if you're in a situation, kind of opening up or actually recognising actually, you know, to some support in this situation, and kind of allowing others to come in and kind of help you, and not see that as a negative, but see that as, again, a way of being able to manage the situation.
So, I mean, this might depend on, there are different types of resilience, and I think we've discussed actually all three of them. So there's the recovery resilience. So recovery resilience is basically you're going along and something happens and you have that dip and you build yourself back up to where you were and you carry on. So if you think a little bit, I like this analogy between a tomato and a tennis ball, okay? You squeeze the tennis ball, it's got a lot of give in it, but it bounces straight back. And that's that bounce back ability we were talking about right at the beginning. You do the same to a tomato, what's going to happen?
You're going to get tomato juice.
Exactly. Basically, that's what's going to happen. You're not going to go back to that same place. So the whole idea behind sort of the recovery resilience is being able to recover, heal and repair. Now, going again back to that same analogy, what would happen if we then buried both of them? You go back sort of 9 months later, your tennis ball is just a bit of a manky mess, but your tomato, you might well see a whole new plant there. All of those seeds, if the right conditions are there, you see a whole new plant with new tomatoes. And I think that's what we call bounce forward resilience. And I think, Kieran, you were just talking about that with, you know, the death of your mum, and how could you make that, how could you repair yourself and move forward and learn from it? And it's a really sort of transformational resilience, and it can turn you into a stronger person. And then there's the third type of resilience, like the bouncing with. This is the adaptive resilience. And again, I like an analogy. If you think about a cork, I can't use the tennis ball and tomato with this one, but if you think about a cork in a rough sea, okay, it's going to batter it around, but it just floats and bobs along on the surface, and it's able to withstand the storm. And that's all about coping with and adjusting to whatever your situation is, and being able, you know, I think this is more of the everyday resilience, the just being able to make the best and not let things sink you. You know, just keep along. It's like I was talking about with the grass. You know, it's been a hot few days. The grass looks brown everywhere. As soon as it rains, that's going to repair itself straight back to green. Does that, do you know what I mean with these different types of resilience? And I think, you know, when we're talking about personal experience, I've experienced all three of them at different times and in different situations.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I really like that. And really helpful. I think the tomato and the tennis ball was good because we're all different and we're all individuals and we've all got different strengths. And so some of us might be kind of naturally better at one type of resilience than the other. We can obviously learn to be better at them and learn skills and strategies for them, but we might naturally be really resilient in this way and maybe not so resilient in this way. And so it's not, we're individuals and we've all got different strengths. I find that really helpful to think
really
about.
Helpful.
I suppose also recognising which one, like say, for, you know, which one you need to be at the time. The tennis ball, the tomato, the cork.
I mean, I think the bouncing with the cork, if you have children, that is your just everyday. There are so many small things that if you let them all get to you, could just crush your spirit.
Yeah. I was thinking that because we were talking yesterday about picking your battles, weren't we? And that is that kind of, but also really important to instill in children and young people that like you could let every little thing ruin your day, but how can you kind of just take the ebbs and flows of life and embrace them and know that with every like knock there's also a little positive moment as well, and
of course,
finding those.
Of course. And you know, like with the bounce forward, I think this is the one that, you know, with the inspiring stories, this is the one that you probably hear a little bit more about, but maybe also to some people feels slightly more unachievable, you know? They might think, hearing this inspiring story about this person doing, I can't think of the words, but
well, it's like when you, I guess that thing is that you see where they were to where they get to, but you don't have the journey in between. That's what I was thinking. That's that part that you need the resilience for. How do I get from A to B? It's actually the hyphen in the middle that is the resilient part of the journey.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, looking at these inspiring stories, you do sometimes think, oh yeah, but that wouldn't be me, I wouldn't be able to get there. But actually it's not until you face that challenge head on do you realise that you too can get there.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation and that you found it helpful. Thank you for listening to the podcast, and don't forget to like and subscribe so that you don't miss the next episode. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter @FaceHitchin.